We're gonna learn about promises in JavaScript. So the main agenda of this video would be like we will get to know what are promises in the JavaScript. Then we'll look into some of the examples of it. Then we will create a small project of creating a random quotes by using these promises and fetch API in JavaScript. So it's gonna be a fun video. So let's get started. So what are promises in JavaScript? As per the definition is concerned, so a promise is an object that returns a value which you hope to receive in the future. So it's like when you have two statements which have a dependency on each other. So one need to be waiting for another one, so that the data that is being generated by the one function or such statement need to be used for the another statement. Then these promises are used. So one object doesn't know the value of it at the starting time, but after some time, after the operation is done, it returns some value. So that's what the definition tells us. So where these promises are used in the JavaScript, so these are mainly used as per the async calls. So what I right now told, like one statement or the one function need to be interdependent on another one. So that time you use these promises. So these are called as async calls. So this is where we use promises, and the promises are majorly introduced into the JavaScript to remove this callback hell. So this async calls can be implemented as well as in through callback functions. But by using these callback functions, there is a major flaw where we call it as an callback hell. So to rectify that, we use these promises right now. So let's get into the basics of promises. So when you create a promise object, the initial state would be a pending state. Then when it is being fulfilled, or the thing that need to be done by the promise is done, we will resolve it. So then that state would be going to the settled, or we'll call it as fulfilled. So if the promise or the statements that are need to be executed, they have an error, or we feel that this is not satisfied, we will reject it. So then the state would be in the rejected state. So then we will also call it as a state settled state. So fulfill or the reject, we call it as settled, but as of the state, it is fulfill or reject. So this can be this fulfill or reject can be catched through an dot then block, where we pass and callback, or else we can catch it through an catch block, where we pass in another callback. So it says like if the promise is being fulfilled, so this do this function dot then. If the promise is being rejected, dot catch, then do some function in it. So the promise can return another promise as well. So if it returns another promise, then the state again begins from the promise dot pending. So this is the whole state. So we have three states in it, majorly pending, fulfilled, and rejected, what we have just discussed. So let's get some examples onto it. So right now I have created one index.html in my promises folder. So I just opened the same thing in the browser as well. So we'll just get started by creating some HTML templates. So just HTML5. So we will name our promises, and we'll have one script tag here. So we'll just open the dev tools right here, so that we can see our console right up here. So we'll just create one new promise. So how we can create it is like we will use const. So const, so it is our sample one, so we can call it as sample equal to. So we create a new promise by a new promise. So promise, just like how we create an object. So yeah, so this promise object takes one function. So I use an arrow function right here. So this function as well takes two parameters. So one is resolve, and another one is reject. Yeah. So when we perform like this promise dot then, so when we resolve it, it will be going into the dot then block. Then if you reject it, we will just go into the dot catch block. So for now we will just resolve it. Resolve. Yeah. So we'll just resolve it by saying I am resolve. So this is a basic promise, so we are not doing much of the stuff here. So we are just creating one promise which just resolve it by saying I am resolved. So just we call it right here like sample. So sample dot then, so it's an object, so we have that dot then. So it will take one callback function where we create an anonymous function. So it will take some data, and then we will just console.log to the console. So console.data. Just save this one. So we will refresh this one. So here you can see it says I am resolved. So if you basically create one new promise here, consider like where I equal to new, the same thing we will copy paste it. So uh, yeah, we'll just change the name to sample one. Yeah. So if you call sample one right here, so here it says the promise is been fulfilled, and the data which need to be coming here is here, right, the right side. So the promise state, we can see it here, it is fulfilled. So if I just say it is rejected, oh sorry, yeah, reject. So we are rejecting with an error message. So if you just got it, so we will have an error. It's saying is I am resolved. So what we passed it here. So if you just go to sample one right here, so we can have the state it as rejected. So these are the state we have discussed. So it is, so here we will see one more state like pending state. So I just don't do resolve or reject right here, just I will do it here. So if I go to sample one again, so it will be in the pending state right here. So if you can see it here, promise.state as pending. So these are the three states. So just we will have some simple async call right here. So first clear this one. So right here, so rather than just resolving it, we will wait for some time and then resolve it. So we will use set timeout function in JavaScript, where it is being provided as an API. So set timeout, it will take an anonymous function right here. So we will resolve it after some time. So we'll just resolve it with I am resolved. Then we will wait it for 2 seconds, let's say. So yeah, I think everything is good. So we will just reload it. So after 2 seconds, I am resolved will be coming. So what is happening here? So we are creating a promise which has a set timeout here. So in the set timeout, we are specifying it to resolve after some time, that is 2 seconds or 2000 milliseconds. So then when we call it the sample dot then, so this then will be called when we resolve this. So after 2 seconds, this will be resolved and this will be called. So this is the whole promise scenario. So this is the basic example by using this set timeout, where this set timeout can be an API call or some action that will take some time. So JavaScript doesn't wait for anyone. So it executes line after line. So to resolve that, we use a promise right here.